The Privacy Bill, I think the first problem with it is not there. We don't have a Privacy Act yet. And keep in mind that in 2017 is when in Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India, the bench of the High Court of the Supreme Court declared privacy a fundamental right. And from that point onward, we were supposed to fairly quickly enable a privacy law. Okay, that privacy law, the Privacy Act has not happened yet after all these years. Okay, and it's gone through multiple iterations. It's gone through various committees. There was the Justice Sri Krishna committee, which was the first one, which actually did a pretty good job. Today, I think what we have seen happening with it evolving over time is that in the draft forms that we have seen, the privacy bill, or what is called the personal data protection bill, is not so much about privacy as it is about data, the value of data, who owns the data, who's responsible for the data. And yes, there are some fairly strong penalties and penal clauses which are there for private sector companies along a value chain, of that data. So for example, you may have the primary data processor who is, let us say, a Airtel or a Jio or a Vodafone or somebody who is taking an application in. Now that application is being processed by, let's say, a data processor and a third party. Then maybe it is being further used by the payments bank of the respective companies which are there. So there are multiple people in the value chain. So there's a very strong set of responsibilities and fiduciary responsibilities which are put. However, none of these really apply to government agencies and law enforcement agencies. So that is one significantly worrying thing, that this is about citizen privacy. Then that privacy should apply whichever is the entity which is, doing the data. Now, for example, which is processing the data or collecting the data. For example, Aadhaar is a case in point, and there have been multiple cases of Aadhaar data which has been either available en masse or which has leaked, and the government may be right in saying that, okay, it's not leaked from our servers exactly. It may have leaked from a third party or people who are capturing that data, Now, the thing is, when this leaks, when Aadhaar information en masse leaks, you could argue that, okay, it's not a very sensitive thing. It's your Aadhaar number and people keep sharing their Aadhaar number. But you can combine that with a lot of other databases. And when you combine all this, then it becomes a very potent database because, you can combine it with, with mobile phone numbers, then you can combine it with maybe bank account numbers. Then if you get a leaked database from a pizza delivery company, you combine it with food preferences, whether you're vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and we've seen you can weaponize that information because, you can have mobs in a place where there are riots actually targeting people who are of a particular culinary inclination and so on. So this is actually worrying, that there should be very extreme focus on protecting the citizens' privacy. Okay, but there are sweeping exemptions which have been actually afforded to law enforcement agencies, which includes things like for police, for example, the police can pretty easily seek a lot of data through a simple Section 91 CRPC request. Okay, and they will simply send that to a service provider, and the service provider could be a restaurant or whatever, and typically they will simply go ahead and give that information. As of now, there is no protection on any of that information, and even when the new bill comes in the form that it doesn't really protect the citizens' right to privacy. So I think these are the two things. The focus is less on privacy and apparently more on the value of data, how it's a sovereign asset, the country kind of has a right to that data, etc. But it doesn't focus so much about, what happens when that data goes, or especially if there are government agencies or law enforcement agencies involved. So that's a long answer, but I think that's a set of worries. But I'll just go back to my starting point. I think the biggest issue is we don't have a privacy law yet. And that's of tremendous concern. And we are seeing that concern play out in so many ways, such as, so much of data leaks, there are phishing attacks, there are breaches which happen, there are, entire databases from Air India, etc. So there is no way to really tackle any of that, or no easy way, because that privacy law is not there right now. The second is that we are seeing a lot of other laws. In the absence of a privacy law, they are putting in various clauses on privacy. So for example, this e-commerce set of laws which actually came out, which were under the Consumer Protection Act, which appeared to target Amazon and Flipkart in a number of ways, and will potentially maybe hit their business in some way, etc. But that has put in various clauses on privacy. Now the question is, when the privacy law comes in, what will happen? Which will gain precedence? Okay, will that override these clauses on this? Okay, there are a lot of RBI clauses on privacy of data. So you finding so many things, so many laws and regulations which actually deal with data, which are beginning to put in some clauses on privacy on their own. But that's a bit of a mess. What we really urgently need is a foundational law, even if it is not perfect, and the ability to update and kind of perfect that law over time, rather than a situation where we don't have any privacy law and we're just pretty much letting each regulator do its own thing.